Welcome to episode 27 of the Cohesive Home Podcast. Today, we're talking about the intersection of values and living simply. If you've listened to some of our past episodes, you may remember us saying that we believe minimalism is just a tool for achieving goals and living by your values. Minimalism is not the end goal by itself. So in this episode, Kate and I are going to chat about determining our values and the nuts and bolts of using simplicity to achieve them.
Before we get started, Melissa, I have a funny story to tell you. So, you know, I've been a so-called minimalist for about 6 years now, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I had a rough day yesterday, just like, Eeyore, woe is me day.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And so I thought, okay, I need some retail therapy.
Oh, no.
And if you know me, that is absolutely hilarious because that's not really my personality. I used to go shopping as a coping mechanism when I was stressed, but I've since kicked that habit.
Yeah.
So last night I left the kids with Kirk and my mom and I went to Target.
Oh, no.
Which is like the holy grail of impulse shopping.
Oh, no. It's the end caps. The end caps always get me.
The clearance stuff. Like we just, we wandered along the ends. Yeah, and just dig.
They
just dig for
do
stuff.
that on purpose. They're just like, you know what? We didn't even mean to sell this at full price, so we're going to lower it with a red tag and make you
feel good about yourself.
Oh, no. Okay, so what happened?
Okay, so I had this idea in my head that I was going to create like a writing nook in my teeny tiny house, which really means a space in the basement to work because wonk wonk, I don't actually have a spare corner. And this is the most frustrating thing. I could not find anything to buy. Like I bought a candle and some headbands for the girls.
Yes. That's how it is. I have that problem. It's when you want something, you cannot find something. Always.
Well, and I think minimalism has ruined shopping for me.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've trained myself to just not buy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so now I've lost that ability to just like, oh, this looks pretty in the basket. Oh, I want that in the basket.
Yeah.
I was so frustrated.
Yeah. Or you get that guilt, you like see it in the basket and you're like, and everything starts adding up in your head and you're like, oh my gosh, or where am I going to put this or whatever. Or just the guilt of buying something, which what's hard about that is when you actually do need it and you still have the guilt. Like, do I really need to spend this? And just biting the bullet and doing it.
Oh, I know. And one of the things I do is I'll, like, say if I go to Target, I'll fill a shopping basket with stuff. Mm-hmm. And then by the time I'm ready to check out, I've already put everything back. Like I just pretend shop and, and then I'm done.
That works sometimes. It really does.
Right.
We should start this thing. I wonder if everybody will do it with us. But like, okay, go to Target, fill up a shopping cart, and then just leave it in the middle of the aisle. No, that's mean. I shouldn't do that.
And we will get a phone call from Target.
I know. Like, we saw you come in here, like Big Brother.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I'm glad that you didn't spend money. That
I did, but not as much as I had in my head that I was going to.
Well, did it help? Did the retail therapy help?
Yeah, it helped a little bit.
Oh, okay.
I like my new candle.
That's a beeswax.
No, I'm so ashamed. It's not beeswax.
If any of you have listened to one of our past episodes, we talked about Kate's love of beeswax candles. So, yeah, you'll have to listen to that one.
Living seasonally.
Yeah. And we mentioned it periodically.
Okay, I am so sorry. I have sidetracked us, but we are going to go ahead and jump into talking about applying minimalism to your home and your life so that you're less tempted to go shop at Target. And then you can actually revolve your life around your values. So we're going to talk first about what we mean by values.
Yeah, because sometimes minimalism can just be sort of a series of these hollow actions without like real intention behind it. So we want to apply our values to our actions, and that's when the good stuff happens. Like that's when things like minimalism have a greater meaning, when those values are attached to it.
Absolutely. So if you're listening right now, can you quickly name what you value as an individual and as a family? Like, can you just off the top of your head?
Yeah.
I know for some of us, can be a really hard thing to do. For my family, we absolutely value experiences. We love to travel. We love spending time together, which sounds kind of obvious, right? Because we're a family. But if you have kids, you have to be intentional about spending that quality time together. And then we also value living creatively and by our individual passions. So basically, every decision we make as a family has to face that gauntlet of our values before we make that decision. What about you, Melissa?
Well, what I do value is my microphone being plugged in.
Oh, no.
Yeah, sorry, guys. The audio was probably a bit bad there at the beginning because I just looked down and my microphone plug had fallen out of the back of my mic. So, yay. So, for us, what my family values is sort of, I wouldn't say changing, but we're honing it in more. We have just 2 nights ago, my husband and I sat down and I looked at him and I said, okay, what are we doing? Where are we going? And what's our next goal as far as like getting into a house? Where do we want to live? How do we want to live? Do we want land? Do we not want land? Those are the questions I had for him. And so I said, what do we value? If we can pinpoint what we value, that will determine what our next step is. And so for us, we determined that we value, same as Kate, we value travel. Ours is international travel. We really, really want to get back to France and Germany and just Europe in general and see those places again. So and also the biggest thing for us is pay off the remainder of our school debt. And just have some breathing room to be able to even travel within the United States. So for us, that was our biggest thing. And in order to do that, we said, okay, we can't do land and things like that. We're going to look for a smaller home, something that we can pay off quickly, or even just have a smaller payment. So our values are driven by mostly travel and having that wiggle room in our budget to be able to just experience life in other places and not just in one place. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. And, Melissa, when we talked on the phone the other day about this, you remember I kind of encouraged you to pick one goal, to direct all your energy toward one outcome. Because here's the thing, and you guys listening know this. Today we have so many more choices on how we can live out our days. And so for Melissa's family, it was tempting to think about buying land and having, animals and a garden and all that. But when she and I kind of, dug a little bit deeper into that, time with her husband and with her kids is a priority. And so is the travel. And those were actually greater priorities than, having goats.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Having land that has to be maintained because all those things take up so much time.
Yes, and those are things that would be wonderful. They would. But like you said, the value of travel and just that yearning for that part of our life, is greater than being stationary in a place. So for us, for our family.
And so, so figuring out what is, that the one or two values that your family just clings to, and then how does that influence your goals? And just like connecting those two can give such greater purpose to the way you live your life as a family.
So in order to do that, sometimes you have to make some choices that may not be popular and might be different than what people assume you should be doing.
Right.
So, for you guys, you've downsized to a little over 600 square feet.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And that is not mainstream America, right?
Yeah,
that is doing something
super weird,
radical.
And again, Melissa, we talk all the time. I think our husbands might be jealous, but
they're starting to call each other now.
They are. It's so cute. But we were talking the other day about just even the process of buying a small house in our culture and how it's kind of odd, maybe, because especially like we're a growing family, we're about to have our third kid, and so technically we should have a bigger house. And so when we were house shopping, we kind of beat around the bush with our realtor. I mean, she was really nice, but we were like, we plan on using this as a rental property someday. And when we phrase it that way, then people are like, oh, what a great investment. But if we say, well, we really want a small house so that we have a low mortgage and extra money each month so that we can travel and be out of our small house, that's a little weird.
Yeah, it makes people uncomfortable,
It totally does.
So I have to tell you something funny.
Yes, please.
So yesterday we went and looked at a very small home, only about 100 more square feet than yours. And it was kind of an odd situation because the couple that lived there were older and they wanted to stay in the house while we looked at it.
Oh, so awkward.
Very awkward. They were so nice, but it was very awkward. But it really hit me that we were doing the right thing when we walked up and she looked at us and she goes, oh no, you need a bigger house than this. You guys can't live here. And I wanted to say to her, well, let us be the judge of that.
Right.
Let us determine our future and the goals and the values that we have. No one is going to know better than you. If you're listening and you are wondering, oh my gosh, what is somebody going to think if I decide to buy a car that looks like it's run down, but it's going to help me get to my goal of paying off whatever and, just those basic things. Who cares? They're not living your life. And so, just hit me really hard when I saw that initial reaction from a total stranger.
Well, I feel like when you start making decisions that are different from those around you, it actually becomes a barometer to whether or not you're on track toward how you want to live your life. So, like for Kirk and I, when we start to feel like the way that we're living is weird to other people, we're like, okay, we're on the right track because we're living by our values and no one else's.
Yes, exactly.
So we've come to accept that we might be a little socially different, unconventional, and that's okay.
We really need to find or create a really fun catchphrase for that and then put it on a shirt and sell it.
Okay, so if you're listening and you have an idea, email us.
Yes, email us a phrase that, or just a different name for someone who makes outlandish decisions so that they are fulfilling their family's goals and dreams and living by their values.
Bam.
Okay, so speaking of family, though,
yes,
we talk about talking with our husbands and making these decisions with our husbands, but guess what? It's not just our husbands. It's we've got 3 kids. You're about to have 3 kids, and so how would you talk to, say, Vivian? Like, I know that you've had to talk to her some.
Oh gosh.
Then talking about your stuff or lack thereof, because our children are part of the family.
Absolutely.
And they're part, decisions come down to the parents, but we always want to include our kids
yes.
in those decisions to some extent.
Yes,
So.
absolutely. And especially when it comes to minimalism, like as Melissa said at the beginning of the podcast, it's just a tool, but we can use it to achieve what we value as a family. But it has to make sense to your kids. It has to be accepted among everyone in the family so that you can partner in it. And it's not just you saying like, hey kids, grab a garbage bag and get rid of all of your stuffed animals because, we don't want the clutter.
No room for that.
Right,
yeah, exactly.
Right. Even though that's how I feel sometimes. I'm like, stuffed animals everywhere.
I know. We had one, and I told you the other day, but we had one in the garage that was in a bag that my oldest, Holland, she had said she was okay with us getting rid of and giving to somebody else. And it fell out of the bag, and she saw it.
Rookie mistake, Melissa.
I know. I was like, darn it, I should have taken that to Goodwill when I had the chance. And it's just been sitting there waiting for me to throw in the car, And she started crying and like really wanted to keep it. And I was like, heart dagger. So I let her take it back inside. So trust me, it's hard for everybody.
Yes. But so how, we try to tie it together for our kids is by talking about how, we obviously, like I said before, we value experiences and travel. We don't value cleaning up all the time and decluttering and organizing, or in other words, managing stuff. Like we like a clean house, but the more things that we own, the harder it is to keep, especially a small house, organized and clean.
Yeah.
And my kids, like I'm sure many other kids, they don't really want to clean up after themselves. I don't even want to clean up after myself, but it's necessary. And so that's what we tell them. We're like, we want to have these great experiences with you too. We want to, be able to leave and go for a hike in a park on just a moment's notice. But if we are constantly drowning in our stuff, if the floor is just covered in toys and clothes and just, those little bits of junk that kids pick up, everywhere.
Or throw down.
Right. And they're like, Mommy, this little scrap of paper has so much meaning. I'm like,
yeah.
The memories.
Oh, I know. It's the art, I feel, is the hardest thing to get rid of, which we've talked about before.
We have talked about. But so I am a broken record with my kids. A kind broken record on why we live simply. We're not living simply just for living simply, but because it helps us achieve big goals.
It actually, for me, and I'm sure it's the same for you too, it helps me. It helps remind me sometimes.
You're right.
It's like I see all their stuff and I'm like, okay, we got to do something about this. But then I look and I'm like, I haven't put that away or that away or, and it helps keep me on track as well.
Absolutely. So. Yeah. And having children, it kind of shows us our weaknesses as adults. It's like, okay, I need to pick up after myself too. I can't expect my kids to do it if I'm not modeling that first.
Yep. Yes. And that's been a big weakness for me my whole life. I've had a really hard time just being tidy.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Like it just, and now as I'm getting older, clutter and tidiness, I crave it, but I'm still not very good at it.
Melissa, I mean, come on. We have 3 kids and husbands. You have a dog. I mean, it's just, it is really hard to keep up on. I mean, before I had kids, my house was always clean, or at least I think it was. It didn't get messy quickly.
No.
I sat around a lot and relaxed. I had a television.
I know, you're like, I think I'm just going to sit and binge watch Netflix tonight. And wait, we didn't even did we even have Netflix before we had kids? I don't remember.
My memory doesn't go back that far. I think it was removed when my child was born. It was like, you had your first child and now you're no longer going to remember anything. pre-children.
Before this moment, your life did not exist. I feel it too.
So I just like to, like fantasize about like, oh yeah, I must have just sat around all the time and,
Did you say eat bonbons?
Eat bonbons and just read books and Kirk rubbed my feet all the time. Not.
Oh.
We're so off track.
No. Oh my gosh. It's all right. It's all right. I'm sure somebody's enjoying it. Anyway, so. I think one of my biggest pet peeves, I would say, about minimalism is that nowadays you can go into any outlet. So you've got a bookstore, YouTube, podcasts, anything, anywhere, blogs, and you're inundated with how to be a minimalist. There's a 10-step guide for every aspect of it, whether it's your closet or your countertop. And there are always nuggets of wisdom within those black and white approaches. However, Kate and I, we really feel that when your values are driving your need for minimalism, or you're using minimalism to obtain your values, it becomes tailor fit to your family. The choices that you make may not line up with everything that you read in those guides. You have to use those, like we said before, minimalism as a tool. Mm-hmm. Those things are going to help you, but don't feel like you have to be just 100% like, this is what minimalism is, so I have to do it this way. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, Melissa. Don't be a slave to these guides or these ideas of how minimalism should look. Like we've all seen the pretty photos of very simple homes, but it's not your home. So create the home that speaks to you. And if it's a very simple one, do it, but make minimalism fit your family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Kate, how do you approach minimalism within your home?
Well, I've talked about this in past episodes, but we've kind of cheated a little bit. Buying a small house has forced us to live minimally. There are only so many closets and cabinets and places to store, and I really have resisted buying big storage furniture.
Yeah.
And that's really just because I know that I'll fill it. Mm-hmm. And so I guess that's our approach, is we don't buy any new furniture, or we don't buy any organizing tools or pieces other than what we already have. So I'm constantly repurposing baskets, closet shelves, cabinets to create the right fit for our family. And then that also means that we have to declutter regularly. So that's how we use minimalism in our home.
Yeah, you're working within the parameters that you've established for your family.
Physical boundaries, they're actually a pretty awesome thing.
Yeah, yeah. So for us, I guess it would be the same. I mean, we've talked before about, even now we don't have that big of a house. So, but right now with the part of life that we're in, we're renting. So, and we're also saving money to buy a house. So we really are kind of doing the same. We haven't bought any new furniture. We have all hand-me-down furniture at this point. I'm currently really trying to hone in on the financial side of minimalism. We talked recently about that. I'm actually going over to a friend's house tonight, and she's going to help me she's actually teaching me how she does it, but she's very good at minimizing her budget, but still maximizing the quality of her food. And she eats like our family eats. So I'm really excited about, learning that way. And so really it's, I would say probably other than those things, is just trying to stay on top of my kids' stuff. and always having another goal of, okay, what do I need to do next? Like I know in my head, I need to go through my kids' clothes. So that's something that I'm going to be working on next because they have a lot of them. And I don't value folding 2 giant piles of clothes. They don't need that many clothes. You know, I'd rather wash them quicker than waiting a week and a half doing laundry and then having so many to fold. So I put away.
Yeah, well, and you know, as fellow travelers, at least maybe in our heads, because we don't travel as much as either of us want to, but
it's a goal.
I know, so sad. But you know, when your family's traveled in the past, each kid had a backpack or a small suitcase, right? And that was their wardrobe. And so I love using that mentality as an approach to my kids' clothes. And it just keeps things so simple. Like, what do they need for a week?
Yeah.
And then that's it. We don't have to be prepared for every single possible occasion. Just keep the basics.
Exactly. They don't need a million jackets and sweatshirts and there's so many. Oh man, that's a whole nother episode. We should talk about that.
Maybe we should declutter our kids' wardrobes first, and then we'll cover this as a topic.
There we go.
Stay
we
tuned.
have to do it first.
Okay, well, we hope this episode wasn't too heavy for all of you listening, but this topic is the bread and butter of cohesive home. And honestly, Melissa and I need these reminders often as we raise our own families. So we want to encourage you to define your values, strip away everything unnecessary, create a family culture around your values, and then use minimalism as a tool to achieve your goals and craft an intentional home.
Okay, friends, that's it for today. Thanks for listening. But don't forget to share this podcast with someone that you think would love it, because that is how we get the word out about Cohesive Home. And so after you do that, also leave a review on iTunes because we would really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.